welcome everybody to the National Managers Community Atlantic Region panel discussion on managing mental health in a virtual team. Bienvenue à notre session sur la gestion de la santé mentale au sein d'une équipe virtuelle. I'm Michael McGinnis. I'm Mike McGinnis of the NMC here in the Atlantic Region, and I'll be moderating today's session, but I'm not alone. Je suis très heureux de vous présenter ma co-modératrice pour la session de l'École de la fonction publique, Lynn Landry. Bonjour, Lynn.
Hello, Michael. Hello tout le monde. I wave, it's a thing on Zoom, we wave. So, good morning, everybody. Bienvenue. Je suis, moi, très honorée d'être ici avec toi, Michael, et avec nos super panélistes qui vont être là plus tard. Je voudrais juste vous dire avant qu'on commence que l'événement est enregistré, so this event will be recorded, just so you're aware, and that we're going to send you a YouTube link after the session so that you'll be able to watch me again, hear the session again. Another thing I'd like to do before we start is to acknowledge that I'm in Dieppe, New Brunswick, and I'm on the traditional unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq people. Je sais qu'on travaille tous à des endroits différents, donc je vous invite à prendre le temps, vous aussi, de reconnaître où vous êtes sur le territoire autochtone, puis à prendre un moment juste pour y réfléchir.
Thank you, Lynn. And I just want to point out that today's session is a bilingual session. Et nous vous invitons de vous sentir libre de poser les questions ou partager vos commentaires dans la langue officielle de votre choix. So we have a full hour today, and we're going to start with opening remarks from Monsieur André Lattre, who's the Ombudsman for Mental Health and Public Services at Procurement, for Mental Health at Public Services and Procurement Canada, excuse me. Following his remarks, André will be joined by three additional guest panelists to be named later, who will take your questions on the ins and outs of managing mental health in your teams. Excuse me. Alors, pour commencer notre discussion aujourd'hui, j'ai le grand plaisir d'accueillir Monsieur André Lattre. André est l'Ombudsman de la santé mentale pour le ministère des Services publics et Approvisionnement Canada. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but it's a big month for André. He's retiring in just a couple of weeks. So this is fantastic timing for us, and we're so honored that he's chosen to be with us as one of his last official duties. So without further ado, André, welcome, and I'll pass the controls over to you.
OK, merci. Est-ce que vous m'entendez, Michael?
Yes, we hear you very clear. Thank you.
Oui, ça va, parfait. Alors, bon matin. Good morning, everyone. Un peu dans la lignée de ce que Lynn a mentionné dès le départ. Moi, je suis à Gatineau, alors je suis sur un territoire non cédé des Mi'kmaq, alors je veux le reconnaître. In English, I'm in Gatineau, and I got no office. There you go. I'm working from home. as all of you. So thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I've been lucky. So I've been in this role for the last 3.5 years, and I think I've been 4 or 5 times in the Atlantic region, from Corner Brook to Sydney to Halifax. Anyways, all beautiful places, and St. John, in fact. Love the people from the Atlantic, love the spirit, love the humor, love everything about that beautiful part of the country. C'est toujours un plaisir de passer du temps avec vous. Comme tu l'as mentionné, Michael, moi, ma carrière tire à sa fin. Je vais accrocher mes patins officiellement à la fin du mois de décembre. Moving on to other challenges. But I must say, after having had a career doing different things in different types of work as well in different departments, this has probably been the culmination of what I had hoped that could be the public service. So a few years ago, I had a conversation with my deputy minister, and you have those conversations as you go through your career, and it was one of those, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I mentioned that, like an ombudsman. She said, okay, what's an ombudsman? In terms of what do you think that person can do? So I just elaborated on it, and conversation pursued, and we added mental health. Mental health was added primarily because the clerk of the Privy Council then was asking deputy ministers in all organizations to start thinking and acting on mental health issues in their departments, taking care of their employees. That was following what the Treasury Board Secretariat had put out as the overall strategy on mental health. So we decided there and then to give it a shot and create the office, which is a first in the government. Now, why did I want to engage in that? And it's funny because I went back to notes that I had in my paper folders. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, I keep paper. And one of the notes I had was written, I don't know how many years ago. And I was thinking of exactly that, creating an ombudsman position. Because I do feel that organizations, they do what they can to ensure that, the governance is in place, that all is aligned to deliver the results that are expected. But first and foremost, and I've seen many situations of the good, the bad, and the ugly of the importance of taking care of your people. If you put the people at, as the priority, at the forefront, then the balance will follow. Si tu t'occupes pas de ton monde, tes résultats, tu les auras pas. Mais si tu les as, tu vas les avoir à un certain prix. So the first iteration, if you want, of the communications that came out of the office was people first. So that became the slogan of the office. And throughout the 3-4 years of the office, people first has been in every presentation, that's been in every document that have been published. It's been very much at the main piece in the annual reports that I produce. I produced 4, one that was done a few weeks ago. Et ce qui est bien de constater, c'est que l'organisation a suivi. Et quand je vais dans des rencontres ou quand j'entends le sous-ministre parler de People First, je me dis, wow, finalement, on a commencé à influencer cette organisation-là. People First veut dire, dans un sens, je sais que je m'adresse à des gestionnaires, puis I want to acknowledge that being a manager today in the public service is challenging. And I mean, over the years, more and more responsibilities have been put on the shoulders of managers, and we necessarily do not always give the time to provide the proper support, proper tools. A lot of it is learned on the job, and in this world of instant communications, that adds as well to the stress load that managers have to handle, plus their day-to-day job and taking care of people. So what I sense is that as an organization, we're getting to a point where we're taking a bit more of our time in ensuring that we put the right people in those positions. So if you go back to the fundamental of what a relationship is, it's a contract. So the contract is the following: I hire you to join the public service or to join my organization. My obligations towards you is I'm going to give you what you need to succeed. I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to give you the training. I'm going to give you a direction of where we're going. I'm going to communicate with you. And I'm going to give you whatever you need to succeed. Because if you succeed, then I succeed, right? And the employee, on the other hand, has an obligation as well to be part of that relationship. Be there, be productive, do whatever is required to ensure that the contract is fulfilled. When things are going right, perfect, don't change it, les conditions sont bonnes, on continue à supporter notre monde, puis les gestionnaires, ça leur fait un petit peu moins de poids aussi à porter sur leurs épaules. Mais il va arriver des moments où on va vivre des situations dans notre vie professionnelle et personnelle qui vont faire en sorte que ça va être un petit peu plus difficile. C'est là que tu espères qu'il y a une confiance qui existe entre gestionnaire et employé pour être capable au moins de s'ouvrir, avoir les conversations, parfois trouver des solutions temporaires pour permettre à l'employé de passer au travers, right? And that applies to managers as well, because you also have to deal with situations on a personal and professional level. So one of my messages to you this morning is don't be too hard on yourself. We live in a particular period of time. We're pretty good at, in terms of resilience, adapting. So we're able pretty much to function, not necessarily normally, but we make things happen. But we must not forget that we must take care of ourselves. And that message goes to everybody. I like to look at the analogy of, the battery. And I've been using that expression for years. Get up in the morning, hopefully you've had a good night's sleep, have your breakfast, nice time with your family, then get to work. That's enough to charge your battery. throughout the day, you'll have different things that'll happen. Sometimes it recharges it, but sometimes it'll deplete it. So it's important that you're able to recharge those batteries. You'll do it in the work environment, you'll do it in the home environment, but there's also things that are important to you that make you happy, that allows you to recharge that battery. That is what? That's going outside for fresh air. That's going for a walk. That's doing a bit of sport. That's talking to your friends, either on the phone or actually meeting and respecting the distanciation rules that have been put in place. Pour que quand les affaires vont bien, perfect. Quand les affaires vont moins bien, vous êtes capable de puiser dans cette espèce de baril-là, this bucket, and just take what you need in terms of energy and keep you going, right? So we're in this phase now. You watch the news these days, a bit more encouraging, I think. We're starting to see vaccines rolling out starting next week, and this will continue through the winter and the spring, and by then we'll probably be in a much better situation, and we'll come back to some form of normality. So important just to keep in mind that what we're living through now is still temporary. It's not the new normal. This is something that we've had to adjust, make best of, but we know that good and better times are coming ahead. And one of the things that I guess everybody will reflect upon is once we get back to some form of normality, what will it look like? We're looking at surveys that go out to employees and that, are you wanting to go back to the office 5 days a week, or do you want to continue 5 days a week at home, or do you want to mishmash of that? Most of the people who are surveyed, I think, are coming back and saying, I kind of like this, but not all the time because I'm going crazy. So give me 2 days, 3 days of telework, and same for work, and at least I get to socialize again in person. At least I get to have a better connection with my team. And that's one, certainly, of the challenges that managers will have to entertain, which is how do you keep that team spirit together alive? And some of the things I hear from the office is over the past few months, teams that were robust, well gelled, have in certain cases become un rassemblement d'individus. Hein? C'est des gens qui sont maintenant quasi de façon individuelle, qui essaient de travailler ensemble, mais c'est pas la même forme d'équipe qu'on trouvait avant. Alors, ça, c'est quelque chose qui nourrit les gens, mais j'espère qu'on va être capable de trouver des moyens là, pour garder ça bien scellé. Parce que c'est ça qui forme une culture aussi d'une organisation. Et c'est ce qui nous permet, je pense, de dire on est bien dans cette organisation-là, ça reflète nos valeurs, puis on est prêt à s'investir, puis prêt à aider les collègues. Right? That's what a team is about. So I know you didn't give me the whole hour to speak, Michael and Lynn. So I'll stop there because I know that other bright people or brighter people than me have interesting things to say as well. So I'll leave it to them. Puis je reviendrai dans la conversation quand on sera prêt à passer aux échanges. Alors, merci beaucoup. And congratulations, by the way, for hosting this event.
Merci, André. Je suis pas sûre qu'on est aussi bright, mais on est aussi cute. Ça fait, on est correct. Là. Fait que, puis tu l'as dit, de toute façon, tu nous aimes dans l'Atlantique. On est merveilleux. Oui. So we're amazing. And I noticed you didn't mention Moncton, but that's okay. That's for after the pandemic in your other life. You can come and visit.
I was in Moncton at least 4 times.
Okay, then. That's okay. You're forgiven. Donc, merci beaucoup. Je pense que c'était des super beaux messages. Don't be too hard on yourself. Donc, soyez gentils avec vous-même. C'est des choses qu'on oublie de faire. C'est super important. On fait ce qu'on peut. Donc, we do what we can and be okay with that. Some days are going to be better than others, and that's fine. So, you said there are other bright people, so I'm going to invite them to actually introduce themselves. So, we're going to go ahead with our panelists. Donc, je vais commencer avec nos panélistes, puis je vais demander à chacun de se présenter. On va commencer avec M. Jean Aucoin, qui est le directeur du Centre d'expertise en gestion des ressources humaines à la TK. And then we'll go on to January Brown, who's the Regional Wellbeing Coordinator at Public Service and Procurement Canada. They have to make that name of that department so long, eh? Like, I don't get it, but that's okay. We like them anyway. Et puis, on va terminer avec la dernière et non la moindre, an INTAG Goodfellow, Manager Workplace Wellness for Veterans Affairs Canada. Donc, Jean, si tu veux commencer puis te présenter.
Oui, ben merci beaucoup, Lynn. Merci, André, pour ces beaux mots aussi. Thank you very much for the great intro, Lynn, and great opening remarks, André. Donc, comme Lynn fait mention, moi, je suis directeur en ressources humaines à l'APEC et un de mes rôles consiste à superviser puis assurer l'intégration de nos opérations, nos politiques puis nos programmes afin de soutenir le mieux-être de nos employés. So really looking at it from an oversight perspective to ensure that we are supporting our employees' mental health and wellness. And a co-op has had a long focus on wellness. The agency leverages a number of resources through different avenues, EAP, the Canadian Mental Health Association, as well as others throughout our years. And we make all of these available through our wellness portal that's available to all the COA staff. Plus récemment, on a, en réponse à la pandémie, on a continué à engager nos employés à travers un nouveau comité qu'on a créé qui s'appelle la COA Connects APEC. Ceci, c'est vraiment un mouvement des employés qu'on est en train de supporter à l'agence en termes de créer des opportunités pour des échanges, pour le partage de ressources. On a des newsletters qui sortent de façon assez fréquente pour informer de toutes les belles choses qui sont disponibles pour les employés et ainsi supporter les différentes campagnes qui aident avec les connexions des gens. Vraiment, la pandémie, ça nous a ouvert les yeux de comment on pouvait collaborer de façon plus panatlantique à l'APEC. Puis ça, on a quand même ressorti des très bonnes choses de ces pratiques-là. C'est des choses que certainement qui vont continuer à suivre. So COA has really benefited from the work of an employee-driven committee that we refer to as a COA Connects APEC. And they have really done great work and laid the groundwork for COA. So ça, c'est moi.
Merci beaucoup, Jean. Jean is super smart, by the way. He knows all sorts of stuff, so I'm very happy to know him. He's one of the right ones, André, like you said. Okay.
Yeah, and he wears a tie as well, right? Jeez.
Oui, non, Jean connaît beaucoup d'affaires. Je suis certaine qu'avec les questions que vous allez poser, que ça va, qu'il va pouvoir nous aider. Donc, on va aller avec January.
Hi, perfect. Okay, just double checking here. Sometimes the mute button. So hello. I am January Brown, the Regional Wellbeing Coordinator for Public Service and Procurement Canada. So I took on this assignment last November. Now, it's widely understood that the health and wellness of employees contributes directly to the organization's success. Now, our Ombudsman of Mental Health understood all too well the importance of workplace well-being and mental health, which is why he recommended the role of the Regional Wellbeing Coordinator to be created so that we can build a healthier and more respectful and supportive work environment that strengthens the public service. So my initial initiative was to create a regional wellness plan and implement it. I'm sure you're all thinking, easy peasy. Well, to get started, the first step was to determine what issues PSPC was facing with regards to mental health and wellness. So I began to consult broadly with employees, managers, union representatives, and employee networks throughout Atlantic region. So in order to gain insight and suggestions for a regional wellbeing program. I was also raising awareness and creating a common understanding of factors that affected mental health at work and how to address issues when they arise. Now, I have been asked, what has been the largest challenge you have faced in this role? And I'm going with global pandemic. So that one's pretty big. So the focus became highlighting the resources we had at PSPC to help employees. such as the Employee Assistance Program, Hotline, LifeSpeak, which is a digital wellness platform. So in May, I organized our Mental Health Week with our wonderful mental health working group. The 5 key themes we tackled were connecting, parenting, healthy eating and exercise, caring for parents, and finance. We believe these topics best addressed our concerns here at Atlantic at the time. In June, I held a Wellness Week. I wanted to bring some positivity to our region. I based my Wellness Week on a great TED Talk called The Happy Secret to Better Work by Sean Aker. I'll let you all in on the secret. Is gratitude, journaling, exercise, meditation, and random acts of kindness. The well-being of our organization is a top priority for PSPC Atlantic. I connect with senior management on a regular basis. They support the sessions that I offer to PSPC employees. And the managers community is a key partner in my endeavors. They provide feedback on what topics I should tackle next based on the current concerns that they are hearing. As a regional wellbeing coordinator, I simply provide an extra layer of support to PSPC employees. So that's it for me, Lynn.
I'm always looking for that mute button. That's the big thing, right? In this global pandemic, find the mute button. Comme c'est ça qu'on cherche. Merci beaucoup, January. And I know January from before, so I know she's doing excellent work. She's one of the bright people, and obviously André's bright for having created the role and putting January in the role. Donc, c'est super intéressant de savoir qu'est-ce qui s'est passé. La session de Sean Aker que tu as mentionnée, c'est une super session, c'est une super vidéo. Moi, j'aime dire que Sean est mon ami, mais je le connais pas. Là. Donc, je vous le recommande si vous l'avez jamais vu. Vous pouvez mettre les sous-titres et puis vous allez pouvoir voir en français. C'est quand même assez bien traduit. Qu'est-ce qu'il dit si jamais l'anglais, c'est un petit défi pour vous. Donc, j'invite maintenant à Anita de se présenter.
Hello, bonjour. Je m'appelle Anita Goodfellow. My name is Anita Goodfellow, and I'm in Prince Edward Island, which is the traditional and unceded territory of several Mi'kmaq First Nations. I am the workplace, the manager of workplace wellness for Veterans Affairs Canada, and that team falls under the Human Resources Division within our department. We have a small but mighty team, and we're responsible for a wide variety of files within the wellness umbrella. And those include certainly mental health and overall wellness, employment equity, diversity and inclusion, awards and recognition, and also the Public Service Employee Survey, which in itself is also a measure of how employees are doing and how their wellness is holding up. We spend such a large part of our lives at work, and so we know what a major role work plays in our everyday lives, and what a huge role our mental health plays in our ability to work well, to feel proud, and to take ownership of our files. Good mental wellness enables us to be motivated and get excited about what we do to support our fellow colleagues and Canadians at large. And in the case of Veterans Affairs Canada, it would be also veterans and their families specifically. At the very base of it, how we feel helps us get out of bed every day and move forward in our lives every single day. In terms of activities and best practices that our team has worked on since the onset of COVID-19, the department, we've worked with many groups within the department, including bargaining agents and other pertinent groups, to develop the Wellness Promotion Plan. And what that is a tool that can be used to help both managers and employees live and work through COVID-19. When we originally drafted the plan, it contained short, medium, and long-term goals, basically. And now that we are into almost 2021, we're re-looking at the plan, and we'll be looking at basically a version 2.0. We're well into long-term now. What else can we add to that plan, and what can we do to help both managers and employees basically get through the workday as well and as functionally and as healthfully as possible. So the wellness promotion plan has been a really good resource that people do verify. Like January, we have worked to promote certainly a lot of mental health and wellness related milestones, such as Mental Health Week, during which we included daily messages on mental health and wellness. We had senior management members talk to us, submit their own photos of them doing something as a pastime outside of the office, away from the suits and the dresses and the briefcases, and tell us, how good mental health impacts them and what is the importance for them of good mental health. We've promoted Mental Illness Awareness Week, and one of the things that we're particularly proud of is a set of weekly wellness tips that we issue every week. And that's something that the VAC employees really look forward to. We're inundated in general with many emails. We all have full inboxes. We set these up to be more graphically interesting with catchy headlines. And so it's the thing that kind of sets it apart from the 100 other emails we get during that day. Some of the recent tips that we've included have talked about grieving, maintaining good mental health during COVID, resilience, and adapting to change. So we're trying to make sure that we're as timely as possible, given that we're not in normal times. We are starting a series of tips to address the 13 psychosocial risk factors that were developed for the National Standard of Canada for Psychological Health and Safety in the Workplace. I have to read that for sure. But those are all things that help us to perform better every single day. We've collaborated with our own internal pandemic response unit on developing a couple of tools to promote awareness about mental health resources for staff. We are big proponents of EAP services, the Employee Assistance Services, and the LifeSpeak program. And in our own internal communications, we have what's called the Carillon, where I think it might be the Wave for PSPC, where it's our internal publication where we put out our articles from time to time. And we've recently done one on the importance of knowing that the EAP program is available for our department. Every agreement with Health Canada will vary, but for our department, there is a focus on EAP services being available for spouses and dependents as well. So if someone's having a tough time, especially during the pandemic, it's not just employees who can get help. Dependents and spouses are also able to get help. Using MS Teams with new technology, we've had to be flexible, we've had to be accommodating, and with the incoming of MS Teams, during the National Public Service Week, we were able to set up a workplace wellness space within MS Teams that has a number of channels. We were able to do contests, have people talk to us about how they're handling their new workplace and COVID-19, share photos, informally recognize people, and we just added on to that by creating the Mental Health Corner. We haven't done much to promote it yet, but we are starting to just populate that. And we see that even without promoting it, we have people that are in there already talking to each other about mental health and wellness. We support our champion. Our champion is our deputy minister. He is very keen on making sure that the mental health and wellness of our staff is as good as it possibly can be, especially during these interesting times. I referred to awards and recognition previously. We've continued this year with long service awards during Public Service Week. And while we weren't able to do them physically together, we were able to do them virtually and to recognize people that had served 10, 15, up to 45 years of service virtually every day. And so that's really important. And we're in the throes of doing our call outs for both the VAC Awards of Excellence and Leadership, and as well we've submitted our nominations for the Public Service Awards of Excellence. So there are many ways to ensure mental wellness and good health, and recognition is certainly part of that. I think with COVID-19 now more than ever, we need to pay special and particular attention to how our colleagues are doing. Some people work at home all alone every day. They don't have pets, they don't have family, and they have very little interaction with others. Others may have too many people and too many pets in the house. And so that's the other end of the spectrum. Some may like having the quiet time and not being bothered by the phone calls, the emails, the things that we would typically be dealing with during their office. And some may be very, very isolated and very lonely. So I think getting in tune with how your team is doing and finding out where they're at with their wellness is crucial. I agree with Andre's tagline, people first, absolutely. We have a job to do and our teams have a job to do. We have to serve the people of Canada, in our case, veterans and their families specifically, but we have to make sure that our people are well first. And that's what we try to do here on the wellness team at Veterans Affairs Canada.
Merci beaucoup, Anita. On voit que Veterans Affairs, ancien combattant, fait beaucoup de choses. Donc, c'est beaucoup de belles idées pour les gestionnaires. C'est beaucoup de ressources aussi avec tes courriels sur... même, j'écoutais comme la perte d'un être cher, puis comment faire when you're grieving and all that stuff. So, that's super interesting. I like also that some of our departments are, like Veterans Affairs, are actually out to the Canadian public and thinking about their mental health as well. Donc, s'occuper de nous, mais pas oublier nos employés et nos clients. Donc, ça fait beaucoup de choses. Donc, je retourne à people first, comme ça dit, puis comme tu as dit, prenez soin. Don't be so hard on yourself. I think we're all trying very well, doing the best that we can. At this time, we're going to open the floor to participants' questions. Donc, posez la question dans la langue officielle de votre choix, anglais, français, chiac. So English, French, chiac, we accept everything. If I can have a drink, I could do a little bit of Spanish, mais on va pas boire ce matin. C'est un sujet quand même assez sérieux, la santé mentale de notre équipe virtuelle. Donc, I don't want to make it light because it's quite a serious subject. We need to be mentally healthy and we need our employees to be mentally healthy. And I think everybody's message was around trust and creating those relationships and making it about people. Donc, vous pouvez poser vos questions dans le chat. Ça, c'est du bon acadien, là. Posez vos questions dans le chat ou en utilisant, you can use the questions and answers option. So if you want to see those and you can't, you just hover that word, your mouse, and you'll see the chat and the questions and answer popping up. Donc, on va commencer avec une première question de Philippe Lebrun. First of all, he says that he loves January's office with the R2-D2 and Iron Man looking at us in the background. So I thought it was very important to mention. But to any of the wellness workplace managers, first of all, are there any early red flags in your experience to identify what someone is not doing, if someone's not doing well mentally? And what's the best approach, in your opinion, to help support an employee that's going through a difficult mental health issue? So I'm going to start with André and then go to Jean, because I'm sure you have lots to say about that. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire qu'est-ce que seraient les choses qu'on pourrait voir peut-être comme des red flags si notre employé va pas bien? Puis comment on s'y prend si on voit que notre employé va pas bien? Donc, André?
Je suis content que tu commences avec une question facile pour moi, Lynn. Je te remercie.
Yeah, and I feel for... C'était facile, c'était pas la bonne place à venir, André. Non.
et par rapport à ce que tu viens de mentionner, l'important, c'est de prendre au sérieux ce qu'on fait. On n'est pas obligé de se prendre au sérieux. Alors, tu sais, l'humour a toujours sa place, so that's good. And I feel for poor January. I mean, how much time does it take to dust off all that stuff in the back, right?
Oh, it's a labor of love. I just want to throw that out there. So.
Yeah, like that's a weekend project, like every week. Alors, je reviens à la question qui a été posée par Philippe, qui est une bonne question. I Alors, comment on reconnaît les signes que quelqu'un est peut-être, je vais utiliser le terme détresse, là, il y a différents degrés de détresse, mais quand tu commences à voir, par exemple, quand il y a des réunions d'équipe, puis que la caméra est toujours fermée, il y a des gens qui fonctionnent de cette façon-là. It's nice, we're seeing today the folks that are on the chat, everybody's got their camera open. That's good, right? You can engage and you can see as well the folks. And some folks keep the camera always closed. Maybe there's something there. The tone in the emails, the tone in the way that the person communicates. That's another indication that something maybe to pay attention to. Like irritability, quelqu'un qui est irritable, quelqu'un qui va lever le ton, qui va être plus sec. C'est qu'on constate normalement, c'en est un autre. Quelqu'un qui manque de plus en plus de rencontres. Quelqu'un qui va prendre moins d'appels, qui va se rendre moins disponible. Là, je dirais, c'en est des facteurs, ce qui peuvent expliquer que les gens ont peut-être quelque chose qui se passe. Puis, ce qu'on souhaite avant tout dans ces situations-là, c'est que si la relation est quand même bonne avec le gestionnaire, superviseur, c'est qu'à un moment donné, tu fais juste un petit courriel, hey, je peux-tu te parler, voir comment les choses vont, etc. Juste garder la communication ouverte. Si la relation n'est pas bonne avec le superviseur et l'employé, c'est peut-être un collègue là, qui peut prendre le téléphone et parler à la personne. Puis autant que possible, j'encourage les gens à avoir des discussions soit par MS Teams, par Zoom ou au téléphone. Au moins, tu entends le ton de la personne. Tandis que si tu te réfugies derrière ton clavier et tu fais ça juste avec des courriels, tu manques le contexte et tu vas avoir moins d'informations. C'est souvent place à la mauvaise interprétation. So, the message here is if you're thinking that something may be happening, like don't hesitate to reach out. And if you feel that you're not the right person, somebody else on the team may be able to do that. So very simple, but from what I found, usually you get to where you want to be, which is trying to understand a bit better what is happening with the individual. And that's also part of a manager's responsibility, which is like some form of duty to inquire. How you doing, right? And that's where it starts. Instead of how are you on this project? Bonjour, comment ça va? Right? Easy. But how many times across the country I've heard people were saying, you know, my manager passes me every morning, never says hello, and leaves at the end of the day, never says bye-bye. Going into his office, and you know, we don't see him for the day. And then he says he has open door policy. Well, open door policy means that you're on the floor, you're talking to your people, and you're, you know, laughing with your folks, having you know, normal relationship. And that's how you build that trust. Plus difficile à faire dans le contexte actuel, mais pas impossible.
C'est des super bons points, ça, André, c'est vrai. Si on a la connexion avec nos employés, leur demander, on va voir, peut-être que quelqu'un, la caméra, c'est quelque chose qu'ils font pas, c'est tout. Puis on le sait déjà de toute façon. Puis on le sait qu'ils n'aiment pas ça quand il y a beaucoup de monde de mettre la caméra. Moi, j'aime ça, me faire montrer, ça fait, il n'y a pas de problème. Mais pour certaines personnes, ils n'aiment pas ça, puis c'est OK. But if you don't see me for a few days, start worrying. Like, there's something wrong with Lynn. So, but as you know your employees, you know who's who and how they fit. And yes, how you're doing. It is more difficult virtually, but not impossible. Donc, je vais pas mettre Jean on the spot, à moins que, parce que j'ai peur qu'il m'aime plus, là, mais j'avais dit que je lui donnerais la chance de parler, là. Ça fait, si tu veux ajouter quelque chose, Jean, c'est
J'ai quelques points à ajouter peut-être, puis certainement André a frappé beaucoup des signes, mais je vais peut-être prendre l'opportunité à faire 2 points additionnels. La première chose, André l'a mentionné, mais quand ça vient à un gestionnaire, duty to inquire, l'obligation de poser des questions, c'est critique. Donc, c'est beaucoup plus que juste la chose qu'on devrait faire, c'est des obligations qu'on a comme des représentants de l'employeur. Donc, il ne faut pas manquer dans cette responsabilité-là. Ça fait partie des responsabilités de tout gestionnaire. So make sure that you are listening, assisting, and listening to your staff. One thing that I think is important to highlight, and Andre alluded to it, but I'll highlight it here, the importance of regular bilats, that one-on-one discussion with staff. It's so important any time, and even more so in the virtual environment. Those 30 minutes of one-on-one time with employees is critical when you're looking at that duty to inquire. And if you're not having those bilats, I do have to strongly encourage you to make time to do that. This is important when you're dealing with your staff. And the last point I wanted to highlight, and I think Jennifer put it in the chat, there was a link to psychological safety. When it comes to psychological health and safety in the workplace, really it's so fundamental when you're looking at identifying whether things are going well or not. If you don't have that environment of psychological safety, oftentimes it can be very challenging to identify or differentiate when it's going well from when it's not going well. Is to have that really great environment, and it's something that as managers we do control a lot of those factors. Not all of them. Some of them are larger than us, but we can certainly all play a role. And there's a ton of resources out there. So I do encourage everyone to raise their own awareness on that and try to implement some of those tools in their work. C'était les petits points que j'avais ajoutés pour au message à André.
Ah, tu fais bien ça, Jean. Parfait. Oui, André.
Excusez, je vais juste ajouter, merci Jean, c'est des bons points que tu as mentionnés. Le message que j'aimerais aussi que les gestionnaires retiennent aujourd'hui, c'est que you're never alone, right? So if you're facing a situation and you're seeing things in your team, you're not sure how to approach it, I mean, don't be shy of asking a colleague, don't be shy of asking a mentor you have, a coach you may have, your ombudsman, or other resources that exist within the organization. You don't have to give names, but you can certainly have those conversations as somebody who's a bit outside, third party can offer maybe a different perspective. See, I'll go back to my role as ombudsman. I'll do a bit of promotion for that, for those departments that don't have it. January alluded to a recommendation I made that every region have a full-time wellness coordinator, every region. And that pretty much has been put in place. One other recommendations I've put forth, and I put 16 all in all, is to have a centralized coaching service for all managers within the organization. So when you're not sure what to do, if you want to improve on a skill, you want to improve in an area, you feel that your muscle is not as developed, there's a place to go. Alors, cette attention-là à apporter aux gestionnaires, elle est critique parce qu'il n'y a personne qui a autant d'impact sur la vie d'un employé qu'un gestionnaire, un superviseur. Right? You're it. When people go back home, or albeit they're at home now, when they talk about their day, you're sure that the name of the manager is going to come up in the conversation. Oh, he did this, she did that, Hopefully it's all good, right? And you guys want to do good. So there's resources that are available to you as well. And don't be shy of reaching out to those resources. And the Ombuds is a safe space for that. So again, I'm doing a bit of promotion. So I chair the interdepartmental organization network of Ombuds. We're 22 now, serving about 40 departments and agencies, and we're growing. So that's the fun thing. And you'll see other pieces of the Ombudsman community coming to a theater near you soon. So yeah, that's it.
Ah, c'est vraiment bon à savoir, André, parce que justement, Ombud, vous pouvez parler à André jusqu'à la fin du mois, puis après ça sera quelqu'un d'autre, là, parce que là, il nous quitte pour la retraite. Mais c'est bon de savoir qu'ils sont là. Puis c'est vrai qu'on n'est pas tout seul. Il y a des ressources. Vous avez un réseau. N'hésitez pas à aller voir ça. C'est super important en tant que gestionnaire de l'utiliser, de prendre soin de vous. People first means you as well first. Don't forget that. So, Michael, I know we have a lot of questions. It's very exciting. I'm super happy about this discussion that's happening. Did you want to go ahead with a question from one of our listeners, I guess, viewers? This is weird.
I'm cognizant of the time's going. We're already 45 minutes in. There's a lot of questions coming in. We won't be able to get to all of them, but we're going to do our best. And if there's some of them that we can follow up with or on afterwards, we'll make sure to include some of that information and email it to all participants. So I have one question. I'm going to try to combine a couple of them here, actually. So this is for managers, particularly during the pandemic. maybe unsure of what their role is, or what role they should play if approached by a team member, most likely virtually, that is suffering from a mental health issue. So pourriez-vous présenter les principales mesures que devraient prendre les gestionnaires si un membre de leur équipe leur parle d'une souffrance? What can managers do in that situation? How should they react? What should they do? And the second part is, can you explain some of the early warning signs that we should be looking out for, especially virtually? It might be hard for managers to monitor. You've touched on some of that already, I think, André, but y a-t-il des signes, des comportements, des problèmes particuliers que les gestionnaires pourraient surveiller virtually or face-to-face, ou aider les employés à gérer? So I'll just start it to the group, and so you might want to take a stab at that. First, what's the role of managers, and what are some signs we should look out for?
Okay, so maybe I'll just give you a bit my take on it, and again, I'll leave it to the brighter people around the table to provide their own insight, especially the one if someone approaches you. And if somebody approaches you to have a conversation about how they're feeling, take that as an act of courage, often by employees, because you become very vulnerable when you open up. And there's still some stigma out there about talking about your world, talking about your reality, talking about some of the personal challenges you're facing. So when you go to a manager to talk about it, one would hope the manager, is there to listen. Listen with empathy, no judgment. Just take in what the employee is saying. The employee has a need to express something. Now, once you have the information, you can start having a conversation in regards to, for example, services that might exist that the employee may not know are there. So you can direct them to the proper areas, employee assistance program, for example, informal conflict, disability management, whatever it is. So that can be useful. But there also may be situations where a manager has to make some form of adjustments to the workload of the individual if the person is going through a personal situation. And I'm give you an example. You have a child or a parent that you need to take care of, your spouse, that needs to go to the doctor quite often, that experiencing a situation that needs time from yourself. Well, the employee may not be able to give their 100% during that time, right? And that's normal. You're dealing with a human being. That may last a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months. Often it's temporary. And one would hope in situations like that, that the manager would like to entertain the art of the possible in what type of flexibilities may exist to allow the employee to strive and continue doing what they need to continue in these circumstances. So to adapt, if you want. So trust, open yourself up enough to let employees feel that they can have the conversations with you. And once the employee has spoken without judgment, what are the possibilities? What are the options that are out there? And there are always options, always. And for 6 years, I was a DG of labor relations. And today I would tell you, don't call labor relations first thing. And this is not a bad thing I'm saying about labor relations, but they look at it from the lens often of the collective agreement. Collective agreement is not only black and white, there's a gray area. The gray area is looking at the art of the possible. So that's my advice to you. Voilà. Alors, je vais laisser le soin aux autres de donner d'autres éléments relativement aux signaux que les gens peuvent présenter.
OK, merci beaucoup, André. Excusez.
Mike?
Yeah, Anita, sure.
Yeah, thank you, André. I would say communiquer. C'est tellement important de parler à nos collègues chaque jour. Ce sont des choses très, très simples, comme saluer l'équipe les matins, vérifier avec les individus comment ça va, comment ça va vraiment, avec la famille, avec le travail, avec toi-même, envoyer des messages d'encouragement. You can do it. You've got this. To communicate, check in with your teammates, a simple hello. I used to love walking by my cubicle, my cubicle wall, and stopping and saying good morning to everyone. And it's interesting because I have joined this team in the pandemic, so I never had that opportunity with this team. But in my other roles, I would always say hello to everyone. That's such a small gesture, and it means so much, and it creates trust. In terms of, and I agree wholeheartedly with what André said, if somebody comes to you and they are vulnerable and opening themselves to you to share how they're doing, listen with both ears and make that the priority over whatever else you're doing in that moment. In terms of what I look for personally, I look for a shift in how someone is working or a shift in someone's personality. Perhaps you have someone on your team who's always really outgoing, but suddenly they may be a bit quieter or a bit more withdrawn. And I mean, if that's just a temporary thing for a day, but if it continues, just sort of maybe ask the question. Or the opposite, someone whose work performance changes without explanation. If they were always very consistent, but now they're a little more forgetful, or they're a little less organized than usual. Someone who's kind of disconnected from the team, or someone who always has a really positive attitude as a general rule, who may seem a little bit down, a little bit negative. So, I mean, it's just ask them, I think, I see that you've been feeling XYZ, sad, anxious, worried lately. Do you want to talk? Is there anything I can do to help? Donc, poser la question à nos collègues. À mon avis, il me semble que tu es nerveuse ces jours-ci, ou tu es anxieuse. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose que je peux faire pour t'aider? It's really important to talk and to let people know that you're sincere. The work is always going to be there. The work is better accomplished when people feel well, and we feel more valued as part of a team when we feel well and when others recognize that it's not just about the work, it's how we're doing as humans, as people as well.
Merci beaucoup, Anita. C'est super. Michael, I'm taking over. Is that okay?
Go for it.
Perfect. I'm just checking in. So we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to ask January. I'm putting you on the spot, and maybe Anita as well. People are saying we're getting so much email, and you know that. Everybody knows that. How do we go and get those resources? Where can we go to find them? For managers, some are dealing with frustrations, and is there a special, I know you mentioned employee assistance program, donc l'aide aux employés, et souvent c'est aussi aux familles. Donc je me demande s'il y a d'autres ressources peut-être pour les gestionnaires ou des outils qu'ils pourraient trouver en quelque part. So January, with your R2D2, I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Yeah, people don't know he's very helpful, I'm telling you. So the first thing is true. The first thing I always recommend is EAP, because the thing is, what I'm hearing over and over again, people are not reaching out until it's a full-blown crisis. And I'm not saying you can't call them then, but when you have that inkling, and also they're professionals, this is what they do and they can help. And so first thing I always want to tell managers, EAP, and the reason is they will give you professional help, guidance, plus they can set you up in an avenue. Like maybe you actually need conflict resolution, like you need a different department. They will tell you who to go see, and then you can be at ease. And I know it's always precarious, that first step, but I'm telling you, they're very nice people. I have called them to make sure that they aren't, they're on par. But I highly recommend that for resources. And I do see in the chat where they're like, is there more stuff that you can come? There is also mental health first aid training that is available. I know there is a cost, but I've taken it. And because everybody's quite concerned because we're in this virtual world, what are signs and whatnot. And I'll put it in the chat for the link, and then you guys can see, there are things like that that's available. So I can't recommend that strong enough, mental health first aid. The next thing that I always recommend for resources, we hear resiliency a lot. That is the buzzword, is resiliency. And think it's called Plan for Resilience, a workplace strategy for mental health. And it's available in both French and English. Anybody, any department can access this. It is free. And I'm telling you, when you click on it, it is a guide to resiliency. And it's so well done and it's so well written. I would recommend, because there was a comment about somebody that they're D&D and they don't necessarily get down to like the smaller groups, like they have something, but that can be an issue. I'm thinking that's where a manager, I know you guys have so much on your shoulders to begin with, but it's almost one of those things that you can tack it on to a meeting that you're having with them, guys, like make the time. And I know it's hard, but it's one of those things we'd like to reiterate, make the time for mental health, make the time, and you as a manager have at least control of your little bubble, and that you can control it. You're going to ask the people to come, make sure they have a calendar. So that would be another one where you can almost go through the pamphlet with them, and then it starts up a conversation. So those are the types of resources that I can't, obviously I think go professional first is always my first, so EAP for sure. But there are some other resources, and thank God for Google. You, like, most of my job is like, what can I find? And you type it in and it's lovely. And I'll also just throw in one more thing, LifeSpeak, and it's with Health Canada. So we're very blessed at PSPC that we've got access to it. And I'm telling you, it's basically an encyclopedia to health. It's got everything in French and English. The videos are in French and English. This is not a pretend, this is bilingual. It is legit. You can, like the videos, like on mindfulness, you pick the topic, they have it. And that's basically, I'll sum that up. Those would be my top three for resources. So it's, and I'll make sure that the links, and I see that we will send out something after. Lynn will share all of this stuff with you. So that's my 10 cents.
That's awesome. Thank you, Darren. But it's Michael that does the hard work. I'm just here for my pretty face.
Oh, Michael, then this is on you, sir, just so you know. I'll send you everything. But yes, I want to make your guys' life as easy as possible. And I will try to get you some really nice resources that you can package in a bow and run with it. They're pretty great.
Merci beaucoup. Puis je suis sûre que ça va être très utile. Anita, si tu as quelque chose à rajouter vite, vite, parce qu'il ne nous reste pas beaucoup de temps, puis j'aurais une petite dernière question pour tout le groupe.
Yeah, just to piggyback on January's reference to EAP, I had a very interesting, I was part of a very interesting session yesterday on diversity and inclusion and racism and discrimination. During that time, some of the members talked about talking to EAP, and as you can see, none of us appear, I don't know you all, but we all pretty much look the same. There are no people that look very different from each other right here in this space. But for people who are equity employment community or equality community members, they wanted to know whether or not they can ask EAP, I would like to speak to someone who maybe knows about or understands my lived experiences or knows a little bit about who I am as a person. And it's important to know that you can talk to someone who will understand culturally and you know the other aspects as well. So it's just one important distinction that I think it's important that people are comfortable when they're sharing that very vulnerable part of themselves, that they know that this is available through EAP as well.
Wow, super. Je ne savais pas, puis je trouve ça. Moi, j'ai utilisé EAP. Moi, j'ai un psychologue en speed dial quasiment, donc je crois que c'est important d'avoir un bon réseau, mais je ne savais pas qu'il pouvait peut-être avoir quelqu'un qui connaissait plus de la culture. Donc, merci de partager ça, Anita. Michael, est-ce que tu me permets une petite dernière question? We're going to go over if we do that. That's okay.
Go for it.
I'll let you go ahead. I just was wondering if maybe each person has an example of an activity that they could share. Maybe in the chat you could put that, because there was lots of back and forth about the activities that could be done to create trust, especially in this virtual world, maybe even in a call center environment. So I invite our panelists to maybe answer in the chat, and people could read that. Donc, vas-y, Michael, je te laisse ta place.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that the hour went by so quickly and we didn't get to all the questions. It's kind of leading me to think maybe we should have a round two in the new year. If I won't put that on you right now, not on the spot. But we will, be sending an email with a lot of the stuff that was shared in the chat. Any of the questions that we can potentially answer easily too, maybe I might reach out to our panelists to see if we can answer those real quickly, to send those out in the email as well. But I want to thank everybody. Merci tout le monde pour votre participation. Merci également André, Jean, Anita, January. You're fantastic. Thank you for being with us today and sharing your insights for managers. It's so greatly appreciated. Thank you also to Lynn. You're equally fantastic. Thank you for helping me out today. Could not have done it without you. A big thanks to the NMC Atlantic co-chairs for your support, and to Robert Armstrong and Suzu Dussel, both of PSPC, who were integral in the planning for today. Je dois également souligner la contribution de Federal Youth Network grâce à le soutien de technique extraordinaire avec Zoom. This is their Zoom platform we're using, so thank you so much to the Federal Youth Network. So merci à Josh, and merci à Marcela Popovich, who's the magic behind the scenes, who's making everything work today. So thank you so much, Marcela. Big thank you to the Canada School for helping us with registration with the NMC. Hope you'll join us for our next learning day in February that we're just working on. So details for that will be announced. Vous pouvez nous suivre sur notre compte Twitter. C'est @commercial NMC barre de soulignement CNG. So at NMC_CNG on Twitter. Pour toute notre mise à jour et des détails d'inscription pour tous nos événements. Until then, thank you, everybody. Best wishes, happy holidays, and I hope you have an awesome day. Thank you so much.
Hey, same to you as well, Michael, and thank you for hosting with Lynn. Very nice event, and thanks for Rob Armstrong for having thought of me. So,
yeah, good all around. Thanks, guys.
Bonne retraite, André. Merci tout le monde. Joyeuses fêtes. Happy holidays.
Bonne journée. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Go Habs, go.
Lord.
Fighting words.